I'm sitting here at the kitchen table, bleary-eyed from hardly sleeping a wink last night, wondering how things got so incredibly messed up. I keep staring at my phone, half hoping, half dreading that my husband will text me. But I already know what he'd say, if he bothered to speak to me at all. It would be more insults, or telling me I'm a slut, or accusing me of not loving him. I never dreamed our marriage would come to this. We've been together for nearly a decade. At first, things were exciting. We had loads of sex in the beginning, maybe too much in hindsight. It seemed like both of us were endlessly in the mood. But then, slowly, it started tapering off. By the time we hit 5 years, we were down to once a month. Eventually, that dwindled to almost never. And then, 4 years ago, it stopped outright. It's not like I ignored it. We tried couples therapy, individual therapy, sex therapy. Nothing changed. The doctors ran tests on him, but his testosterone levels came back fine. No issues with his physical health, so there was no easy explanation for why he wasn't interested anymore. Time and again, he'd just say, "I don't want sex. I don't enjoy it." But he'd offer me the occasional quick thing, a finger here, a quick orgasm for me, or let me give him a blowjob every once in a while. Yet any attempt at what I'd call real intimacy? Nothing. Sometimes I'm convinced there must be more to the story. Depression, hidden secrets, who knows? But every time I'd gently ask, he'd just shrug and say, "I'm fine. I'm just never in the mood." And when I'd push further, he'd either get annoyed or shut down completely. A couple of days ago, he even told me he'd appreciate it if we'd just never talk about sex again. That felt like a slap in the face. He knows I want sex, and yet he's telling me my needs don't matter, that I should just drop the topic forever. I've tried so hard to be understanding and accommodating. I've asked him, point blank, if I've become unattractive or if there's something he wants to do differently. I've offered everything: threesomes, role-playing, total freedom for him to explore. I even said if he wanted to see someone else, I wouldn't hold it against him, just as long as we maintained our emotional connection. But every suggestion was a dead end. He says there's no secret fetish, no suppressed identity, no porn obsession, no side relationship. He simply insists he doesn't enjoy sex and never has. The timeline doesn't exactly match, though. I remember how much we used to hook up in the early days, but apparently, according to him, that was just him going along with it to keep me happy. In other words, the man had over 50 partners before we met, had sex with me non-stop at first, and is now swearing that he only did all of that because everyone else seemed to enjoy it. He wanted to see what the fuss was about and then concluded it was boring. That stings, and not just because it implies none of it ever mattered to him. Last night was the final straw. I decided we needed a frank conversation. I said, "Look, you don't want sex at all, and I do. That's the reality. I'm at my wit's end. Either you let me have sex outside the marriage or we end this." I tried to be calm, but my heart was hammering. I could see the rage creeping across his face, but I kept going. I said something like, "I respect that you're not interested anymore, but I have needs too. If you genuinely are asexual or whatever, I'm not judging you. But I do want sex in my life, and if you can't or won't provide it, I need to find a solution." He erupted, like full ranting and raving about how I'm a sex addict, a slag, that I don't love him, and that I have no respect for myself. Honestly, it was vile. He seemed so disgusted at the mere idea that I'd look for intimacy elsewhere. But I stayed calm. I just kept repeating, "If you won't address my needs, then let me address them somewhere else. Or at least give me some concrete reason you don't want to have sex with me so I know it's not my fault." He insisted that his lack of sex drive has nothing to do with me, that he's never cared about sex, never enjoyed it, and that he'd rather just wank than bother pleasing another person. That might be a valid orientation or sexual preference, but the way he spat the words at me felt so cruel. I asked him to think about how contradictory it sounded given the way we started our relationship, and that's when he dropped the bomb. "I just did that at the start to shut you up. It was never fun for me." I felt an icy wave of hurt and betrayal wash over me. I asked why he'd slept with more than 50 people over the course of his life if he hates sex so much, and he said it was just to see what everyone else was on about. I didn't know how to process that. This man literally built part of his identity around being a sexual person, yet now claims it was all an attempt to fit in. Trying a last-ditch compromise, I offered him control over how I'd have sex with others if that would make him more comfortable. You can pick the person, you can watch, or you can know nothing about it. Anything. I just need a solution. I'd never thought I'd hear those words coming out of my mouth, but that's how desperate I was. Still, he refused to budge. "No fucking way," he said, then stormed out the door. That was after 4 hours of heated talk. Well, mostly him calling me names and me trying not to cry. He ended up spending the night at a friend's. Now, I might have been able to handle it if he'd just cooled off. But instead, I started getting messages from his mates, calling me a slag and a cheater in the making. I realised he'd told them some twisted version of our conversation, and they were all rallying to his side, sending me insults. That was the final straw. I felt so disrespected. This is my husband, the man who once claimed to love me, encouraging or at least allowing his friends to harass me. At 6 in the morning, sleepless and furious, I texted him. I said I was done. "You leaving and getting your friends to gang up on me tells me everything I need to know. I'll let you decide whether you want to stay in the house or not, but if you choose to stay, I'll only be paying my half of the mortgage until it's sold. Then you're on your own. I don't care what you tell people. I have proof of our issues over text because you're a coward and that's how you communicate. Goodbye, Daryl." Somehow pressing send felt like pulling a trigger. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, heart racing, waiting for a response that didn't come. I guess he's still with his friend, or maybe ignoring me because he doesn't know what to say. Either way, I'm not rushing to fix this, not anymore. It's a weird, hollow feeling to think our marriage is essentially done. I keep replaying all the ways I tried to make this work: therapy, medical checks, experiments in bed, offering him total sexual freedom to figure himself out. Nothing helped. Now I'm shutting it down, and I can't help feeling a mix of heartbreak and relief. You know, I never judged him for working part-time. We agreed it was best for his mental health. He said his last job was too stressful. That left me to handle the bulk of financial responsibilities, which I truly didn't mind. My job pays well enough. We never fought about money, or anything else really, except for this: sex, physical intimacy, or the lack thereof. And it's not that I need sex daily or anything extreme. But 4 years is a long time to go without proper intercourse in a marriage. The few times we did something, like him fingering me or me blowing him, was so few and far between, it just reminded me how hungry I was for real intimacy. When I tried to communicate that, he basically told me to shut up about it forever. That was the last straw for me. I've heard from random people who suggest maybe he's gay or depressed or cheating. I dug through his phone, which he's never hidden, and found nothing. If he was gay or had some secret side piece, I honestly think I would have found hints by now. He claims he's just not interested in sex, period. It's a valid preference, except he married someone who is interested in sex, and he refuses any kind of compromise or openness.